So make sure if you visit London, you're never the one. Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a more informal conversation lesson. Through it, you can learn vocabulary and practice your comprehension skills. So don't worry if you don't understand everything, and I'll try to put vocabulary or phrases that might be more challenging up on the screen as I speak. For today's topic, I thought I could discuss a list of things that would make someone who lives in London, sometimes referred to as a Londoner, mad or angry. A lot of these rules involve the etiquette of London transport. They are sacred. So if you are planning a trip to London or you're going to London soon, this will save you from incurring the wrath of the locals or making the locals very angry. If you break one of these rules, however, a typical Londoner will never say anything because we Brits are masters of passive aggression. Number 1, queue jumping. This one is not particular to London. It applies to the whole of the UK, and it's to do with queuing. A queue, as you probably know, is when you wait in line for something. British people revere the queue. We respect queues. We're known for it, and the stereotype is true. The queue imposes order. It means each person knows their place and how long they're meant to wait. So when someone jumps the queue and pushes in at the front, the natural order is overturned. It interrupts everything. When this happens, when someone jumps the queue, as we call it, if you look around, you will be able to see every other person in that queue unanimously stare this person down, glare angrily. Eyes roll, tuts are exchanged. But more often than not, no one says anything. We're far too polite for that. Occasionally, you'll have someone reprimand the person who jumped the queue, and everyone else will throw grateful glances in their direction. But mostly, since we really are masters of passive aggression, no one says anything. Everyone just looks very unhappy. All visitors to the UK should respect the queue. As I said, many of these are to do with public transport, and a big part of public transport in London is what we call the tube, otherwise known as the London Underground. And with a British accent, it sounds like tube, not American tube, the tube. So a lot of these rules are to do with the tube. Number 2, not standing on the right in both senses side of the escalator. In the London Underground, if you've ever been there, there are signs every metre or so on the escalators, and they clearly state you stand on the right and you walk on the left. Again, this is just part of the natural order of life in the underground. During rush hour, busiest time of the day when everyone is going to work, this mistake would be even worse. So in the depths of infernal rush hour, because rush hour on the tube is horrible, it's crowded, it's hot, you have grumpy commuters flowing up and down the escalator, there is always someone, some poor fool who doesn't understand the system, who's standing on the left holding everyone else up. This might even be someone who's British, because this rule doesn't apply outside of London. You can spot Londoners outside of London in the UK because they are the ones who are standing on the right side of the escalator. But this person who's holding everyone else up awaits the same fate as the queue jumper. The person behind will tut, clear their throat, or perhaps mutter a curt "excuse me," indicating they need to pass. Believe me, the thoughts in this person's head will not be as polite. To save any embarrassment, all users on the tube need to stand on the right, walk on the left. So make sure if you visit London, you're never the one standing on the left side of the escalator. Number 3, not being ready for the barriers. Like the metro or any underground system, there are barriers that let you into the tube. Continuing the rush hour theme, this broken rule is particularly bad at rush hour because during rush hour, there is a steady and rapid flow of commuters passing through the barriers. There are steady beeps, a regular rhythm, one person smoothly passes through the barrier and then the next person does. But when someone reaches the barrier and doesn't have their Oyster card or contactless payment card ready, they just disrupt the rhythm and the flow. They hold everyone else up as they look around rummaging for the card or the ticket to go through the barriers. And for the commuters squirming to get above or below ground, the commuters who are always in a hurry, it is very annoying. Rule number 4 is to do with eating on public transport. Not all food, but generally, when someone eats something on the underground, whether it is noisily, a packet of crisps that's crunching, or something even worse that smells, it's considered very thoughtless on the underground. Again, as I keep saying, no one will say anything, but you will receive the look. This look is recognizable for most Londoners. It's the "you're doing something to annoy me, but I'm too polite to say anything, so I'm fixing you with this glare instead" look. And if you're eating something that is either noisy or smelly, you will receive the look. Number 5, music leaks. Again, a common cause for this look, this glare that Londoners give others, is people playing their music too loudly. When it's silent on the tube, especially at rush hour, the person next to you can often hear the music coming from the headphones. So when someone has their music too loud, it consequently infiltrates the rest of the tube carriage. If it is a Londoner unwittingly committing this crime, unknowingly committing this crime, they will realise they're receiving the look and they will turn their music down. Number 6, making small talk on public transport. Small talk is a phrase that means polite conversation about unimportant matters. Londoners are genuinely afraid of being addressed by a stranger on the underground. On the tube, especially at rush hour, no one speaks to one another, no one smiles at one another, no one even makes eye contact. That's just how it is. It is an unspoken rule of the tube. There is nothing worse than a friendly tourist leaning over and trying to engage a Londoner in conversation. If you are in this situation, disengage immediately, because any response you receive is only a result of stiff, deeply rooted British politeness. Number 7, making small talk to a stranger in public in general. Now I come to think of it, making small talk with strangers at all, even outside public transport, is largely considered unwelcome. I've realised this might be counterintuitive to many cultures and it might seem very unfriendly. It's not quite as bad outside of London, but in the capital, Londoners don't like random strangers trying to engage them in conversations. Perhaps attribute it to our fierce reserve. But that's why if there are promoters on the street, people handing out leaflets, just watch how the Londoners react to them. Because a Londoner will pick up the pace, they'll walk very quickly, they'll put their headphones in, their eyes down, and they will do anything rather than make eye contact with this person so that they won't have to stop and talk to them. It comes from that same London phobia I mentioned, being addressed by a stranger in public. There are a few occasions where there might be an exception to this rule, usually in an establishment that serves alcohol. British people, as you might already know from when they go on holiday, are big drinkers. They drink a lot of alcohol, and there is general camaraderie in British pub culture. So, if in a pub and tipsy and happy and a little bit drunk, addressing a stranger is a lot more acceptable. Number 8, if walking, cycling, or driving, the other two are the enemy. This is less a rule than it is a general observation. Interactions between the three main modes of road travel frequently infuriate Londoners. When it comes to the roads of London, there is a general state of being. If you are a pedestrian, you hate cars and cyclists. If you are a driver, you hate pedestrians and cyclists. And unsurprisingly, if you are a cyclist, you hate pedestrians and drivers. Unfortunately, that's just how it is in London. That is the state of being on the London roads. And that's why you'll hear lots of angry honks and beeps from the drivers. London drivers tend to be more aggressive than in the rest of the UK. Number 9, interrupting the London power walk. Londoners walk fast. Londoners walk very fast. They are on a mission. Their mission is to get from A to B as quickly as possible. And anyone who impedes that mission, gets in the way of that mission, is extremely irritating. Dawdlers will get a lot of hate in London. A dawdler is someone who walks slowly and without purpose. It just so happens that the pace of a London walker is perhaps faster than a pedestrian anywhere else in the world. So bear in mind, if you are on a busy London street, especially central London, zone 1, and you are walking slowly, you are taking your time to get from point A to point B, just check behind that there isn't someone trying to get past looking very angry. And number 10, stopping and changing direction abruptly on a busy street. In our age of internet, particularly with the rise of the mobile map, this one is pretty common. To be honest, many people who live in London, many Londoners, have committed this crime themselves, me included. Someone has their face glued to their phone and they realise that they are stepping in the opposite direction to the line delineated by Google Maps or whatever mobile map app they are using. They halt abruptly and they do a 180-degree turn. They turn around. And for the person power walking behind, it is problematic because they nearly bump into them. And yes, it is also infuriating. So there they are, 10 things to consider when visiting London. I worry I've painted a picture of the typical Londoner as an angry, disagreeable, unhappy sort of person. That isn't true at all. Many Londoners are friendly, sometimes very friendly. However, it is true that the 10 things I've discussed do drive the average Londoner crazy. Of course, if an outsider does break one of these rules, a Londoner would never say anything. We are far too polite for that. I hope you found this interesting and it gave some insight into life in London, especially the life of public transport. If you have any requests or any interests you want to hear more about, please leave that in a comment. Also, if this type of more casual conversational video is helpful, or whether you prefer the more structured lesson videos. Hopefully it helped with your comprehension and you picked up a few new words or phrases. And if you are visiting London soon, you know the things to avoid. I'll see you in the next one.